Gentlemen of the internet, what if I were to tell you that on this episode of the Twilight Zone, you would go to a country of people who are so indoctrinated, they say that the crown should get what they want, that the government are the experts. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Canada, if I can hit the play button. Canada.
Ask you quickly, what did you think about the Freedom Convoy 2022?
The Freedom
Convoy. Yeah, what did you think of it?
It's kind of late in the day to be asking.
I know.
It was a problem.
Yeah.
Can you I live around here. It was a problem. I had a lot of threats from people yelling at me for wearing a mask, people coming over in front of my house, ringing.
Kind of late in the day to be asking that? Is that a testament to the 3 martini lunch that this lady might have had? Well, it's kind of late. I mean, the sun is still out and it's kind of late in the day to be asking me about the Freedom Convoy. Maybe she meant that it's too late after the fact. I'm going to have to interject at each one of the lies that this woman is spewing. Now, in fairness, it might not be a lie to her because she might believe it because she didn't leave the house. The first is that people were getting harassed for wearing masks. Nobody got harassed for wearing a face mask at the protest because, as I pointed out at the time, some people were wearing face masks specifically so they wouldn't lose their jobs for attending the protest. Some people were wearing face masks so they wouldn't get harassed by the counter-protesters or recognized and get doxxed and whatever. Here, let's this play out.
Convoy. Yeah, what did you think of it?
It's kind of late in the day to be asking.
I know.
It was a problem.
It was a problem.
I live around here. It was a problem. I had a lot of threats from people.
Bullshit.
Yelling at me for wearing a mask.
Bullshit.
People coming over in front of my house, ringing bells, yelling freedom, freedom, freedom.
Can you imagine that even if that happened? Can you imagine the horror? There's people screaming freedom, freedom, freedom. It's not like a ring and run. It's not setting dog shit on fire on your front porch. These rowdy, patriotic Canadians were chanting freedom, freedom, freedom. The horror. Won't someone please think of the children?
Interfering with conversations with neighbors.
Interfering with conversations with neighbors. It's understandable why these idiots want to be subservient to the crown, because they think they're royalty. They were interrupting my afternoon conversations with the neighbors. This is a real person in Canada. And I called up Alexa Lavoie, the journalist here from Rebel News, before going live, just to see, before I pick on these people too much, were they one-off lunatics? And she's like, no, Dave, more often than not, this is what they were saying when she stopped people on the street. They were interrupting my afternoon martini with my neighbor conversation. We were talking about very important things, like which opera is best and how best to serve the Indigenous communities of Canada that have yet to have clean drinking water. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. We've been in power for 10 years and have done nothing about that.
Because I live across from where they were staying. Mm-hmm. So it was intrusive. And it was unnecessary.
It was intrusive and unnecessary. And I'll correct myself in real time. I'm sure the Liberal government will talk about how they've provided clean drinking water to more Indian reservations than before they took office. That's what they'll claim. It was intrusive and unnecessary. Biatch, you don't even know what is necessary for your own freedom. Go lick the boot of the crown.
I don't think they accomplished anything. I think they were more of a laughing stock at the end. I think they've shown themselves for what they are.
Well, it gets worse if you can believe how bad this already is. This is Canada, people.
Also, I think the people who are the leaders were not just leaders of that group. I think initially they were anti-immigration. They were gun lobbyists. They belonged to a different group than the one they portrayed themselves as being part of here.
I'm going to give Alexa Lavoie credit. I would not be able to hold my tongue while talking to this woman or listening to this woman. Maybe I would. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit. Anti-immigrant.
And they hid behind the Freedom Convoy, I think, in order to pass on their views about well,
but they were racist.
They're racists.
That's it.
And nobody brought that up as much. But
you know who brought it up? I think it was Little Bear, the Indigenous man that I interviewed. You know who brought it up? The Ari, the transgender individual who was with the protest. You know who brought it up? The Egyptian person who was complaining about the fact that they left Egypt to come to Canada and now they see tyranny in Canada. Oh yeah, they were racist. And you're blind. Maybe she's blind. Maybe she's blind and I shouldn't make fun of her. Holy cow.
There was a lot of racism going on up there near Parliament.
Oh, a lot of racism. So much I couldn't see any of it.
And people of color were being harassed and
bullshit.
And called names.
Bullshit.
And this had nothing to do with freedom.
Because it didn't happen.
As they call it. I think it's just that group was.
This is like when you get bogged down with your own bullshit. Can you believe this? And it's not a one-off. So I'm going to give Alexa Lavoie. Go follow Alexa Lavoie. It's Alexa the Voice. She had another one here. Is this it right here? Yeah, and I have to say, I need to make sure. I do not want to be unfair with anybody. I'm like, okay, is this guy?
Can I just ask?
Is this guy like a one-off? And she's like, nope. They were proud of it. Proud to be licking the boot, kissing the ring, polishing the emeralds in the crown. Listen to what this guy has to say. By the way, the context to all of this. Let me just bring this out for a second. The context to all of this is that in the persecution of Tamara Lich, Chris Barber, Pat King, the Coots Four, all of them, but in particularly as relates to Tamara Lich, the alleged head organizer of the protest, and Chris Barber, the other alleged protester, head of the protest, they were found guilty on mischief, and Barber was found guilty of counseling the disobeyance of a court order. You know, typically that might be contempt at best, if true. They're trying to lock them away for 7 and 8 years, respectively. This is the Crown, the almighty Crown, trying to lock up its subjects for 7, 8 years for nonviolent mischief convictions, which themselves are utter bullshit convictions. I apologize for swearing more than usual. Bullshit. This is Alexa Lavoie of Rebel News taking to the street to see what the people of Canada, so-called Canadians, have to say about this. Canada may be beyond the event horizon. These people are not one-offs. These probably represent the majority of people in Ottawa, much like the majority of the people in D.C. think January 6th was an insurrection and think Donald Trump should be drawn and quartered for his transgressions. Listen to what this guy has to say. It's beyond the pale.
Can I just ask quickly, what did you think of the Freedom Convoy?
I think it was horrendous, right?
Horrendous.
I mean, these were terrorists causing grief to all of the residents of Ottawa.
Terrorists. The words have ceased to have meaning. That protest, which had gay, native, immigrants, was xenophobe, racist, anti-Semitic, transphobe. This jackass is calling the most peaceful protest ever terrorism.
Frankly, embarrassing Canadians like ourselves, embarrassing Albertans like ourselves. I wish they never did that, and I really do hope that they get what they deserve in court.
They deserve.
I think it was ridiculous. Yeah.
The Crown is asking 8 years. Do you think it's enough?
Those are my. I think whatever the Crown asks for, the judicial system should.
I think whatever the Crown asks for. What do you deserve? Whatever the Crown asks for. Holy shit! This individual no longer submits himself to God or a God or some sort of spiritual authority. He submits himself to the authority of the Crown. This is Canada, people. And I asked Alexa Lavoie, and she said this guy in particular was very eager to express his opinion, disdain for the Ottawa protest, which is why she followed up with questions on camera. Whatever the Crown wants, ye shall get.
Be allowed to run. I think it's absolutely ridiculous when politicians, like Trump is doing in the U.S., right, firing people in the judicial system. That's unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
So Polyev
it's
and his, some of the,
it's unacceptable. You should only be able to hire, never fire. The government should be a proverbial blob that only gets bigger, never gets smaller. And you should do whatever the government says. Don't even trust them. Shut your face. What the Crown wants, the Crown gets. And you are a terrorist for saying no.
Polyev, first of all, not even as an MP right now, making comments that are contrary to what the judicial system is trying to do, completely inappropriate. We don't need politicians. They shouldn't be above the law. They shouldn't have any jurisdiction over the law. And you have to let the Crown prosecutors do their job. They're the experts in this. But like I said, terrorists deserve to go to jail, and I hope they do get a substantial sentence. We'll see what the judge gives.
May this man never be on the receiving end of the tyranny that he is ushering in. I'm not even that much of a vengeful person to say he deserves what he's wishing on others. I think the power of the cosmos tends to dole that out. The crown should get what it wants. They're the experts. And these terrorists that did nothing, didn't even break an effing window, deserve 7 to 8 years in jail. That's Canada. And these are not one-offs. The patients have taken over the asylum, the criminals have taken over the prison, and the people who have submitted themselves to a corrupt government are very happy to be on the side of that corrupt government when they think that they get to use the baton of power on their ideological adversaries. One day, it'll be them on the receiving end. And then they'll say, my goodness, the crown shouldn't be able to do whatever it wants.